Dear colleagues and educators and friends, it's a great pleasure to welcome you to this important conversation on the future of higher education. As Vice Dean of Education at the University of Bergen and someone that is deeply engaged in both research and teaching, I'm honored to be able to open this session today. So we are living in a time of rapid transformation, technologically, socially, and environmentally. And these changes challenge us to rethink not only what we teach, but also how we teach. At the heart of this transformation lies a powerful opportunity to make education more inclusive, more engaging, and also more impactful. In my own research, I study cooperation learning in nature, how individuals adapt, how they share and thrive in complex environments. And I believe that some of these same principles apply to education. So learning is not a solitary act. It thrives through interaction, curiosity, and shared purpose. And that is why I'm a strong advocate of active learning approaches that empower students to take ownership of their education, to question, to create, and to connect. Whether through problem-based learning or interdisciplinary project, we see time and time again that students learn best when they are engaged as partners in a process. And that's also why I support the scholarship of teaching and learning, because teaching, like research, must be evidence-based, reflective, and continuously evolving. SOTL allow us to explore what works, to share insights across disciplines, and to build a culture where quality in education is recognized and also rewarded. And finally, I want to emphasize the importance of diversity, not just in who we are teaching, but also in how we are teaching. Our classrooms are increasingly global, multilingual, and multicultural. And this diversity is not a challenge to be managed, it's an asset. It really enriches our discussions, broadens our perspectives, and prepare our students to thrive in a complex world. So I think as we look ahead, we may reimagine education, not as a static system, but as a living, collaborative process, and building inclusive, dynamic learning environments, which is also an important step towards reaching the SDGs. So thank you, and I'm looking forward to the conversation ahead.
Thank you very much to Sigrunn Eliassen for these welcoming words. And she's the Vice Dean, as you said, for Education at the University of Bergen. And I would also like to extend the welcome on behalf of the International Association of Universities and the University of Bergen, the ISC, and several other very valued partners for this side event in the context of the UN Ocean Conference that is still taking part today, the last day in Nice in France. And also some of you are engaged in different ways in that conference. And as one of the co-moderators, I would like to present our second moderator, which is Øyvind Fiksen, who's the Marine Dean from the University of Bergen. And he will be moderating with me also later the discussion. So now, because we have a couple of very good experts and great colleagues here in the call, I would just like to very much introduce them, and then I will give the floor to the first speaker just after. So we have joining us from the Ocean University of China, Professor Liang Jiantao, and also it was a bit late for you, but we look forward to hearing more about your work. Then we have Dr. Anish Singh, who's an assistant professor at the University of the South Pacific, and who's also in the UN Ocean Conference expert group called Into Life by the ISC. We have Dr. Louise Gamache, who's a researcher at the University of Cape Town in South Africa. Next, we have Dr. Deborah Villarroel-Lamb, who's a lecturer in coastal zone engineering and management at the University of the West Indies in different parts of the Caribbean. And we have Matty Rodrigue, who's a science program director at OceanX. And I think she is right now on the OceanX in Nice, but usually based in the US, I believe, and you will tell us more. And I like that Sigrunn mentioned the diversity of the subject around ocean literacy and around ocean research, also from a higher education and science perspective. And that's what we really tried with this panel to have a wide variety of speakers. And also I would like to welcome Hillage van Land, who's the Secretary General of the IAU, who will come in the discussion and towards the end and announce a voluntary ocean commitment that the IAU is planning with partners from the SDG 14 cluster. So without further ado, welcome again, and thank you for everyone joining us today. And I would like to give the floor to Professor Liang Jiantao for the first short presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Isabel. I will share my slides. Can you see my slides?
Not yet. They're still loading, but I think the internet is being a bit slow today, so we'll just give it a second. Yes, that's great. I can see them now. If you could go to full screen.
Whether it's full screen now?
Yes, perfect. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for the invitation of Owen and Isabel. It's my great honor to be here, attend the side events of UNOC 3. And I want to share some activities from Chinese about knowledge sharing and ocean literacy. I talked with my lab sister who works in our affiliated middle school about that. First, I think we have one ocean, only one ocean, and we are the world. And also, children are our future, and we need to do some bridging academic and actions. I just list 7 things. First, I think is about serious nonfiction. Our university have a press and prepare a lot of serious nonfiction about marine research and marine stories to inspire the interest about marine research. And also our distinguished scientists gave a lot of lectures to the middle school and to the high school and undergraduate students to let them to be interested about the marine, about the ocean, about marine study. And third, I think we can invite a lot of middle school students and undergraduate students to the field trip. Like this here is Jiaolong, who can down to the deeper than 7,000 meters, and also the big ship to see the real things and the museum, and also to supply in our research vehicle, and also go to another country to share information. Fourth, I think the students need to some guiding about research projects. Here, Professor Guan is our former president of OUC. He is an academician, very high-level scientist. He leads a high middle school student to do some research project. Fifth, I think, is about marine culture and products, also led by a very distinguished scientist from Institute of Oceanography, Chinese Academy of Sciences. You see, this a lot of beautiful products about these small things, food and ceramics and other things and clothes. And the sixth, I think, should be a lot of documentary media, AI, and I things. Here you can see everyone knows planet, blue planet, and also in China we have some similar documentary, and also we have media, like is about one of our distinguished professor Wen Shengchang, a movie about him, and also another distinguished scientist. He has his Bilibili website to broadcast the marine research, and also we can use AI to accelerate this broadcasting about marine research, marine story, marine interest. Finally, I want to see the forecast collaboration between academy, policymaker, industry, and the civil societies. This is our annual academic conference last year between China and Norway Union. We can give some suggestion to the policymaker, and also you can see the UNOC 3 President Macron said, protecting the ocean means protecting immersed ocean carbon sink and biodiversity. And also with their support, we can have the project to support research such as ocean negative carbon emission and blue granary, and also the ecological restoration of about seagrass beds. One professor from our university, and also they will help to the Sustainable Development Goals 14. That's all I want to show. I'm very thank you, and very glad to join us this time, and we're very welcome to visit our university. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Professor Yantao, for this great overview of all the important initiatives that you're undertaking at the Ocean University of China. And I'm sure we'll have the chance to ask a couple of questions later to you regarding some of the projects. So thank you. And I think I will go to the next speaker for an input presentation now. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have Dr. Anesh Singh with us from the University of the South Pacific, and he's actually still at UNOC in Nice. So I hope, Anesh, you will be able to tell us a little bit more about what you are working on at the University of South Pacific and at UNOC. So yeah, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Isabella. Bula Vinakar, and warm Pacific greetings to everyone. It's a privilege to join this important discussion on advancing SDG 14 in particular, and the broader agenda of ocean literacy, knowledge sharing, and transformative partnerships. I speak today on behalf of the University of the South Pacific, USP for short, a regional institute uniquely placed in the heart of the Pacific, serving 12 member countries spread across the largest ocean in the world. These countries include Fiji, Samoa, Tonga, Vanuatu, Solomon Islands, Niue, Kiribati, Tuvalu, Tokelau, Cook Islands, Marshall Islands, and Nauru. For us in the Pacific, the ocean is more than a source of livelihood or identity. It is the foundation of our survival and sovereignty. Our challenges are deeply shaped by climate change, ocean degradation, and shifting marine ecosystems. At the same time, our region holds rich traditions of ocean stewardship and a growing network of researchers, educators, and young leaders working to sustain the ocean for future generations. At the university, ocean sustainability and literacy are integrated into the core of our work across teaching, research, and community engagement. One such example is the Pacific European Union Marine Partnership, or PUME project, which has empowered thousands of Pacific Islanders, especially women and youth, with practical and policy-relevant skills in marine resource management, ocean governance, and coastal community resilience. Through formal education, vocational training, and local partnerships, PUME project strengthens not only technical experts, but also people's connection to and responsibility for the marine environments. Another major initiative is the Pacific Ocean Climate Crisis Assessment, or POCA project, a regionally led process we oversee through the Center for Sustainable Futures at the university. POCA provides a comprehensive, locally grounded analysis of how climate change is impacting our Pacific Ocean systems. What makes it distinctive is its inclusive knowledge approach, combining rigorous scientific research with indigenous and local knowledge systems. This not only builds a shared evidence base, but empowers Pacific communities to lead in both understanding and responding to the crisis. Recognizing the urgent need for more structured pathways into climate and ocean leadership, the Center for Sustainable Futures is now developing the Pacific's first undergraduate degree in climate change. This is significant and a timely milestone for the region. For too long, climate education has been concentrated at the postgraduate level or framed mainly around international negotiations. Yet our students, many of whom are already experiencing the consequences of sea level rise, coastal erosion, and ecosystem loss, need access to this knowledge from the outset of their academic journeys. This new degree program will be deeply rooted in Pacific contexts and realities, drawing on science, indigenous knowledge, policy engagement, and experiential learning. It will prepare graduates to serve not only as researchers or technical experts, but as public servants, educators, entrepreneurs, and advocates. In doing so, it will also contribute to a broader shift within the university, embedding sustainability across disciplines and ensuring that every graduate, regardless of the field, leaves with a strong foundation in ocean and climate literacy. However, the transformation of ocean science education cannot rest with universities alone. Policymakers have a vital role to play in mainstreaming ocean and climate literacy through national education systems, from early childhood through to tertiary education, as alluded to by our previous speaker. Support is also needed to foster local research leadership, led by Pacific people for the Pacific people, recognize the role of indigenous knowledge, and align training with the emerging needs of blue economies. Beyond formal institutions, civil society, traditional knowledge holders, youth networks, and the private sector all have essential roles in shaping the broader learning ecosystem. In the Pacific, we've seen powerful examples of collaboration between fishers and scientists, students and elders, and community organizations and educators. These partnerships not only improve knowledge flow, but help root solutions in local ownership and trust. The UN Decade of Ocean Science presents us with a global platform to scale these efforts, connect our experiences, and co-create a more equitable, resilient, and sustainable ocean future. But the real test lies in how well we translate these ideas into action across borders, institutions, and generations. At USP, our university, our commitment is clear. We will continue to center Pacific voices and leadership in ocean science. We will expand access to quality, culturally relevant education, and we will ensure our graduates are not just recipients of knowledge, but agents of change for the communities and for the ocean they call home. We shall endeavor to shape Pacific futures. Vinaka Vakalevu, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Anesh, for this really excellent overview also, and of stressing really important points of working with communities and students there. So I have a lot of questions already, but I know that that's the time for that is a bit later. So thank you. I will give the floor to Louise from the University of Cape Town next. So please go ahead, Louise.
Thank you so much, and thank you very much for inviting me today. I am a marine sustainability researcher from the University of Cape Town, and I also co-convene a master's program in applied ocean sciences. And the University of Cape Town is also a partner in the South African Marine Ocean Sciences program, which is a Erasmus Plus funded project, which is a partner of 15 institutions. I will say a little bit more on that just a little bit later. But a lot of my reflections is centered in the fact of my own research practice, where I work in very much in inter and transdisciplinary spaces in the marine space, and a growing frustration in that we don't often train students to, students can either deal with sustainability or they tend to be able to deal with marine sciences, and we're not really we haven't up to now been struggling to find students or train students in both. And the SAMOS from our Applied Ocean Sciences program that we currently have already running at UCT focuses more on marine biology and oceanography, but in applied context, already teaching students to deal better with interdisciplinarity in an applied ocean sciences space. But what I want to talk to you about more today, a little bit, share more about, is about SAMOS, which even takes this a little bit even further, and trying to meet these needs of training ocean professionals and researchers that can deal with inter and transdisciplinary complexity in a world where the complexity and certainly the ocean space and demands of the blue economy is just getting more and more and more. So as I mentioned earlier, we've got 15 partner universities, 5 from Europe, 9 universities from South Africa, and some other institutions as well. And the idea really is to harness our own capacity and build capacity, but to harness our strengths and to work collaboratively across the institutions to offer a standardized a program that stretches the breadth of the marine sciences, anything from social ecological systems to human impacts to oceanography to statistics, and to train students that are capacitated with the breadth of marine science and by harnessing our institutional strengths. Each institution has its own strengths and can't really teach everything. That's a little bit, and through this partnership, we're able to offer this more diverse curriculum. The really nice thing about this is it builds capacity not only for the students, so we don't all just harness our institutional strengths to provide a more holistic program, but also a collaboration or building capacity amongst institutions in South Africa, especially with our historical disadvantaged universities, where one can also look at the skill transference through and capacity building through a twinning program that's been designed. That also allows for knowledge sharing between the academics to learn with each other. So it's really through the sharing across institutions, you're really not able just to look at what you teach students, but also capacitate researchers. I think that's the long and short of it. And through this, we also obviously creating partnerships for future research, because as you collaborate with each other across in this collaboration, in this program, to teach, you also learn to collaborate with each other as researchers. And that in itself also creates a space to move beyond some of these silos that we do always tend to find ourselves working in. So this program really it offers us a way to harness our resources, and it's a creative way of thinking of how do we teach ambitiously for inter and transdisciplinarity in a way that we can maximize what we have, and also move forward. And yeah, it's a bit of a mouthful. I hope I explained it succinctly enough. That it's very complicated. It's very exciting. There's a lot of talking, and it's a very dynamic space. And we will welcome our first cohort next year. So it's also very much it's a work in progress. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Louise. And I'm happy that the summer's program is advancing. I heard about it 2 years ago as well. And I think some colleagues also joined us for this occasion today. So we'll probably have a couple more follow-up questions on that process as well for you later. And I think I will move now from South Africa to the Caribbean to Deborah next. And please, Deborah, floor is yours. And the screen share is loading, so we should be able to see it in a second.
Sure. Hi, thank you so much for allowing me to share today. Hope it's now in full screen, so everyone can see it.
Yes, perfect.
All right, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about my perspective. I'm a civil engineer by training, specializing in coastal engineering, and I work at the University of the West Indies. So our focus there is to really educate our peoples, which reside across the Caribbean region. We have 4 main campuses, Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, Antigua, and one at Jamaica, which is our main campus. But we service various sites across the English-speaking Caribbean. So our education in terms of finding solutions as an engineer in the coastal space is to ensure that we can meet the needs or the varying needs across our region. The Caribbean is working in this space in the coastal zone. We have a lot of conflicting uses. We have diverse ecosystems. We have assets in the coastal zone driven by the tourism sector. So we have infrastructure. A lot of our roads are in the coastal space. We have infrastructure driven by the oil and gas sector. We have infrastructure driven by just cultural, historical perspectives. And what has resulted is there's a lot of people occupying the coastal zone and utilizing marine resources. And we have to be able to manage that well, especially when we're trying to find solutions and educate our people about the different solutions that exist. We also have to be mindful that we are in a hurricane zone. So we are faced with storms, hurricanes annually, starting from June on through November in every year. We have erosion taking place, flooding. We also have to address potential changes in our hydrodynamic forces, waves, currents, etc., due to climate changes. So we have to be able to manage these solutions given the problem that we face, and ensure that whatever we do in terms of education is able to solve the problem that we see across the Caribbean region. So we have this space that is subject to multiple uses. We have existing pressures or increasing pressures on the coastal environment, be it developmental goals where we're putting more infrastructure in the coastal space. We have climate change coming from the seaward side. We have limited scientific understanding of the solutions that actually are optimal for our each areas across the Caribbean region. And then we don't, because of that limited human, technical, and financial resource, because I sit here as the only one in the University in St. Augustine who deals with the engineering component and looking at solutions. So we have that limited human resource, and there's a need for more collaborative engagement, and that has forced us into that space in terms of our teaching, in terms of how we do our research. So our education is focused on that, knowing what we need to do to achieve coastal resilience. So we want to enact or empower our students to ensure that they see something in the future, they see a future, because that's one of the limitations that when we deliver technical content, I always face with students who question about the reality of the situation. And somehow through that education and training, we have to deliver a sense of hope and possibility. So we do try to improve the local technical capacity. Yes, we do that. We do sensitize our decision makers. We try to ensure we collaborate with the various ministries so that they move away from the reliance on hard engineering, which can have deleterious effects in our coastal zone and in the marine space. We also try to augment the scientific data. That's what we do at an institution through research, through undergraduate and graduate research projects. We also try to ensure we sensitize anyone in the decision-making space, be it from a community level up onto the legislative level, in terms of the impacts that can happen in the short, medium, and long term based on poor decisions that are made. And we always try to augment, because we know the limitations we face in terms of resourcing. We try to augment that collaborative engagement, not only across the region, but in the international space as well. So just to share with you the focus on sustained education in the 60s, 70s, and 80s at the university, and this is across the university region. We just had one person, Dr. Compton Dean, who used to be involved in teaching. And then when he retired in 1987, there was nobody left. And so when I graduated in 2000, there was nothing in coastal engineering teaching. And so the Caribbean was not being educated on solving the problems. And it was not until after Hurricane Lenny in 1999 that we launched this series, the university launched a series of short courses across the Caribbean region. And that is from that we developed our undergraduate and graduate teaching program. So there's that possibility that it can happen again, because now we're back down to one. And that is always a concern for us. So what we do at university, we teach, yes, but we also engage in research, encourage our students to engage in research. And because we know the limitations, so we wanted to ensure that our students are able to access state-of-the-art tools. So we built a short flume. It allows students to do some testing. Here we're looking at some vegetation characteristics. We also are doing these projects that try to share information, gather information across the wide international space. The NBS Engross project is one such project. So we're doing some fundamental technical work in terms of looking at levels of protection. And as I said, I am an engineer, so I'm looking at optimizing solutions, but we also delving more into that stakeholder space to ensure that the solutions can meet the needs of the various communities that we service in the Caribbean region. And of course, part and parcel of that is knowing our limitations. We do a lot of collaboration. So part of the project, we did some experimental work here at Imperial College in London. So we're looking at, we simulated some of the coral reef. This is a simulated four reef from our Buck Reef in Tobago, and we trying to assess and quantify the level of protection offered by the reef so that we could integrate it into our solutions on the coast. All right, so that's it. I do have a lot more that I would have loved to share, but I'm mindful of the time limit, and I'll just leave it there for the moment. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Deborah, for sharing these really insightful examples of working with the community and like educating them, like you said. And also thanks for sticking to the time, because we have one more speaker and then we'll open it up again to a wider conversation. So I would like to give the floor now to Matty from Oceanix. And please, Matty, if you're, yes, go for it.
Sure. Let me just share my screen quickly. I think it'll be loading now. Yes. Okay. Okay, we can see that?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. My name is Maddie Rodrigue. I am the science director at a nonprofit organization called OceanX. We are not an academic institution or a university, but we do partner very often with academic institutions and universities. And I thought I'd explain a little bit about why I'm here, but also about what we do before I talk a little bit about our educational programming. And the real reason that I was invited here is for that sort of diverse way of looking at ocean literacy, ocean education, and really trying to engage audiences in different ways. With the foundation, of course, being science programming. So as I mentioned, OceanX is a nonprofit organization, and we have a mission to explore the world's oceans and bring science and discovery back to the world through captivating media, through education, through scientific publication, and through the concept of open science. And the way that we do that is through a very unique operational capability that we have, which is operating a vessel called the Ocean Explorer, which is actually where I'm sitting right now in Nice Harbor. So I'm at UNOC, and we were lucky enough to have the ship here, and it's been a crazy week of events and programming and panels and everything, but I've been looking forward to this one quite a lot. So we have an operational arm, the vessel. Everything we do is built foundationally upon the scientific research, and that is where we partner with academic institutions, where scientists that lead studies within their countries or within their regions are asked to be PIs or cruise leaders on board our vessel and conduct their research and access the technology that we have. We tell the story of those scientists and the scientific work through captivating media. We do long form documentary filmmaking. We do short form digital pieces. We do social media. We do mixed reality, AR, VR. And through all of that media and storytelling and creating these immersive experiences, we launched an education program. So OceanX Education was launched last year, and it was built off of a series of pilot programs, which I'll talk about momentarily, that are designed to be experiential. So bringing students out to the ship, bringing people to the ship in ports, having them do tours, and also virtual. So engaging people in programming that is virtual, like live streaming of dives, creating everything from classroom materials to short children's books to also gaming materials that can be played through really popular gaming platforms like Fortnite, for example. And everything that we do is built on this foundation that partnerships are the only way that we're going to get more people to know, understand, and care about the ocean, because we can't protect what we don't know. So partnerships being key, and quite a lot of our partnerships are with academic institutions and universities. So this slide is always a little bit slow. Just to show you where I am sitting right now, this is the Ocean Explorer. This is the world's most advanced research and media platform that has ever been built. We do everything from deep sea research to coastal research. We are, as I mentioned, a philanthropic organization, so a nonprofit. So we go where we're asked, we go where we're needed. We partner with local scientists to take on their research proposals, take on what they want to do scientifically, and train them with critical skill sets around the use of subsea technology that often most governments in both the global north and the global south do not have access to. So we recognize that we are very lucky. And so we try to go where we're most needed to empower researchers and amplify their scientific work. And as I mentioned, through that, we started a series of educational programs. Oops, I accidentally hit advance twice. And we started a educational program that really started as just a way to try to get the next generation of ocean leaders, explorers, ocean advocates out to the vessel to experience real research. It started as a US-based program, as also a way to increase diversity in STEM and to increase the representation in marine science. And then we started working on this program globally. And so we're trying to both offer diverse perspectives on the ship in and around the cameras and the storytelling facilities that we have in front of and behind the cameras. And then also to be able to create experiences for students globally that will allow them to feel what it's like to be in the field, to be doing real research, and to be learning about some of these new technologies. So the on-ship programming is a Young Explorers program, which is sort of undergraduate level, where we bring students out that are representative of the regions that we're working in. And we give them sort of more of an experience on board. So it's almost like a sampler platter of kind of what we do. So we introduce them to things like subsea technology. We introduce them to things like the importance and the threats facing the deep sea. We introduce them to concepts around storytelling and using both social media and also longer form and more technically complex camera making and sort of editing skills. We also have digital programming. So we live stream into classrooms. We work with local universities, even if they're not participating directly on the vessel for the expedition. We'll do live stream our remotely operated vehicle dives. We'll live stream activities happening on the vessel. We'll do meet the expert sessions about scientists that are working from a local university that can talk to classrooms that are interested. And then we also do exhibitions as well. So we have several exhibit experiences that travel around to different museums. We have portal experience, which is basically we film a lot of things in 360 and 3D. And so these are really immersive ways to project onto sort of these dome-shaped portals where people can actually feel like they're right along with us in that submersible and going for a dive into the deep sea. And then, as I mentioned, we also have an exhibit that travels around to different museums and academic institutions and university affiliated science centers as well. And one thing that we recently did was go around Africa for a very, very long 4.5-month expedition where we circumnavigated Africa, but we specifically partnered with the ECOP program through the UN Decade and through POGO. And so what we did along this transit was ensure that, one, we were conducting science that contributed to the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development. And all of the data that we were collecting were basically designed to be along optimized transit routes. So where is the seabed not mapped? Where do we need more observations to ground truth the NASA PACE satellite? Where do we need more ocean observations from the surface all the way down to the seafloor? but also foundationally building a curriculum for early career ocean professionals, or ECOPs. We refer to them also as early career explorers, but early career ocean professionals to come on board and gain access to foundational training, not just in this crazy technology that we're lucky enough to have on board, but foundational skill sets around the use of molecular tools to understand scientific problems within an ecosystem context, like using environmental DNA to understand biodiversity, or habitat mapping using acoustic systems, learning how then you can take a map and turn it into something contextual and relevant for policymakers. So these really foundational and really translatable skills that are then being trained by professionals through the POGO and OBON networks through the UN Decade, so that all of the training methodologies are standardized, and they just happen to be doing it on an incredibly cool platform where they're interacting and learning from other researchers in real time. And so this is the route. So on all of these sort of transit legs, so you see the green boxes are where we stopped and had specific dedicated expeditions. And there were early career researchers on those working with the PIs that were representing different African institutions along the route. And then on the transits, the entire cohort was usually about 16, 17 early career researchers. And then we had a dedicated faculty as well, everything from ocean acidification to ocean observing using biomolecular tools to acoustics and mapping, all hands-on experiential training, where they're also required to develop projects that either support their own research or show transferability to their institutions or the NGOs or the field offices that they're then representing as early career researchers. And here's just some stats, but one really important thing that I wanted to highlight is this map, not just the route, but the countries that are highlighted on the map. So these are the number of countries that participated with us along this expedition. So truly global, truly international, and prioritizing the African continent to get African PIs leading African science about what's in and around their waters. And the young explorers and the early career explorers as well. And now we have a really wonderful alumni network already in existence through OceanX Education. And so, of course, now we have several dozen new members of the alumni program for it with us. Just a partner slide, because you always have to include the partners and everything that you are talking about. And I think I'm going to stop talking there because I know we still have some questions to get through. But that's just an example of kind of a way that we're using the tools that we have, but also trying to meet diverse audiences and meet people that maybe aren't otherwise engaged in the space, while also trying to build foundational skill sets and trainings for the next generation of ocean researchers.
Thank you so much, Maddie. Thanks. That's a lot of impressive work going on there. And yeah, thank you to all the speakers for this first round of insights of all the work going on in the very different contexts at universities and in research, and with OceanX as sort of being a connecting point between the two. We would like to have a discussion now. So basically the way that we will be doing it is that Oyvind and I will be asking questions to the speakers, but we'll also take questions from the audience. So we invite also the audience to use either the chat or the Q&A button in Zoom to submit their questions. And I think there's already one immediate question that I'm seeing, and it is just maybe just because Maddie, you were just speaking, did OceanX ever go to the Caribbean? Is that you want to write one now? Start with that one.
Yes, sure. Yeah, we have a long history of working in the Caribbean, but with a previous research vessel, actually. So we used to operate a vessel called Alusha, and we worked in the Caribbean quite a lot. And Ocean Explorer actually in 2021 was in the Caribbean. We worked in the Bahamas and the Dominican Republic. And we have very, very high hopes to go back probably within the next 5 years. So please, you have whoever asked that question, I'm sure you find a way to get a hold of me, or maybe Isabel can help us with that, but would be very happy to chat through that.
Perfect. Thanks so much. Okay, I think I will just give the floor to Oyvind now for a bit, and I think he has probably already a lot of questions and so an idea who he wants to ask the first questions to. So maybe we can go back then to the colleagues who were speaking at first. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much to all of you. I think there are a number of common ground here and many topics that obviously are relevant to all of you. So just let me, I mean, I would like to start with Professor Liang, maybe, because I was lucky to go to China last year and visit your university and Qingdao, and I know that there's a lot of interests in the ocean, of course, in China, and most of that, like in my own home country, the interest is about how to make a living out of the ocean. I mean, all of these countries are also, all of you are also highly dependent on the ocean. So educating students is often motivated by our use of the ocean. So of course there is this trade-offs here between the use and the protection of the oceans. So I don't know, Liang, could you say a little bit about China and how China thinks about? I mean, you are definitely the experts in the world, I think, about producing, for instance, lower trophic products out of the ocean, and how what's your strategy here? That of course is a very sustainable food production system, for instance, but it is also taking a lot of space. It has a lot of it's not it does have a footprint also, and I'm wondering if you're in your teaching and your education system, how do you handle these trade-offs?
Thanks, Owen. Very thank you visited us last year to celebrate our 100-year anniversary of OUC. I think it depends on the development of the country. You know, China have a lot of population, so firstly they need to live and they need the food. You know, in China, the aquaculture is more than the fish capture in the ocean. So for the aquaculture, something is good to the environment, like the kelp, like macroalgae, and something might some species might influence the environment, threats the environment, like the fish. And I think now China develops a lot about IMTA, you know, the integrate marine culture technology to culture the seagrass and the fish and oyster together might be environmental friendly, and also China pay a lot of attention on the the renewable energy in the sea. Actually, for the development of the economy, the energy usage is positive correlated with the economy development. So in China, we develop a lot of renewable energy now. In the last year, I think the renewable energy new established or renewable energy have increased very quick, higher than 50% of the total energy production. I think in the near future, if it continue increase, you know, China have two carbon project. Carbon maximum, the carbon nutrition to meet the Paris Agreement. So I think in the near future, more renewable energy, and think we will put more attention on the sustainable development of the ocean for the environmental protection of the ocean. And I think like the atmosphere quality in the lab, you know, 10 years, 2 decades ago, the quality is not good. Now, more and more renewable energy close a lot of factory, use the mine. Now the air quality improve a lot in the land. I think that's a future of the ocean. That's my opinion. Thank you. Thank you, Owen. Yeah.
Thank you. Very interesting, and of course, all of these activities is very in need of highly educated people. I'm sure. So the educational part is an integrated element in building these capacities. I'm sure. So maybe I can ask Avnesh. You had one of your points was the need for hope in the education. I assume there is a lot of worries, particularly around climate change, and you mentioned several climate change initiatives in the educational part in your university there. And could you tell us a little bit more about that? What is the sea level change is probably on a high up on the agenda, as you mentioned, and how do you, is this engineering problem that you actually have to train people to adapt to the climate change in the future? Is that's one of the strategies you're following?
Thank you for the question. The impacts of climate change in our region is just you cannot measure it. There's so many. Sea level rise is just one of them, and the trickling effects of that. Any increment in sea level rise amplifies the effects or the impacts. You have even stronger storm surges. You have king tides, and low-lying islands are constantly and continuously inundated during king tides or storm surges. We've been forced to relocate from our coastal regions into higher ground. Fiji, for example, is a volcanic island, so it's easy to people find that there's land to relocate to, but because most of the communities live around the coastal regions, they depend on the oceans for livelihood. But there are other low-lying islands in the region, Tuvalu and Kiribati and Tokelau. They're atoll countries. Lower-lying islands like Tonga, they're not volcanic islands, so their adaptation strategies are quite different to the volcanic islands like Fiji, and they would need more resources to be able to combat the impacts of sea level rise. But the sea is also a source of livelihoods, like I said. It's where people look towards for the livelihoods. They go out fishing. They live off their catch to go to the markets to sell the products and sustain their livelihoods. There's also the impact of sea level rise is on saltwater intrusion caused by coastal inundation, which damages their crops. So we need to look at salt resilient crops. What are these? Are these different from the traditional food crops that they've been using? Would they be able to move or shift from these crops that they've been used to for generations and maybe to something that is different, that is not what they're used to? Do they want to go from root crops to rice, which is more easier to get, but you have to buy it? So there's a lot of challenges. That's for the livelihoods, but there's also the cultural aspect of it. Most of the communities in the region, they have the burial grounds around the coast, in the villages. And with the seas creeping into the land, they not only wash away the shoreline and the trees, but also the graves. And this is a very significant impact on the communities that are living there. So it's a cascading effect. And this is just one of the issues that you mentioned, sea level rise, but there's many others. So how do we incorporate this into our education system? Climate change is a very broad area. And in the development of this undergraduate degree that we're talking about, there's so many aspects to be contained in a very small curriculum. 3 years for undergrad degree looks reasonable, but there's so many aspects to cover. What do we put in? How do we put all this together? So that's the challenge. And we're looking forward to this challenge because it gives us the opportunity to address the issues that are in the region. And we'll be educating the people in the region on what is impacting them. So we're very much looking forward to this exercise. It's an opportunity for us to develop something really good for the region, and that will really bring out all the aspects, if we can, of what the climate change impacts are in the region.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I'm very happy that we have a UN Ocean Action Decade project with USP, the ANPOC program that I'll just link to here. So I'm really glad we have the chance to collaborate between our universities also on PhD education. This is like 20 PhD students involved in this training program, and I hope that will be well. I know it is a major contribution to improving teaching on the scientific capacity in the region, I hope.
I'm glad you brought that up, and if I may very quickly talk about this NOAA Pacific Ocean Climate Scholarship Program. It's a collaboration that supports the Pacific Island scholars to undertake research on ocean and climate issues. But it's more than a scholarship in partnership with the Norwegian government. It's a long-term investment in Pacific leadership, developing a new cadre of experts who are equipped not only with world-class research, but to participate meaningfully in policy dialogues and multilateral negotiations. So linking the science to policy, this is one of the beautiful aspects of this program, and we hope to continue this moving forward. This is the ocean diplomacy that we are integrating into our PhD students. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yep. Maybe Deborah, we should. You also have many similar issues as Avnash brought up, I guess, with you showing all the biodiversity that is in your region, the fantastic reefs and all of that. At side by side with the oil exploitation and fisheries and a lot of things, you must have a. It's tempting to ask you as well. How does that? It seems to have a very deep the educational practice you have. It must have a very deep applied side to it, and you showed the experimental tank you had with wave exposure and all of that. But engineering, and you mentioned that as well. Engineering, yes. I think, is just capacity building for solving civic problems and for creating a kind of an entrepreneurship approach to problem solving is how I interpreted much of your approach to the teaching.
Yes, thanks a lot for that. Yes, so traditionally what would have happened with us in engineering is you would teach the technical aspects in terms of what we know to design, and that would be like the hard engineering infrastructure, your revetments, your breakwaters, and those are what you would find traditionally throughout the Caribbean region. However, if we have to look at resilience and the that sort of moral ground for us as educators is that we need to ensure that we are doing what is right for our future generations as well. So that was the shift in the teaching, where we now have to look at what impact it is that these structures are having on the environment. And yes, we know how to design them. We know we can design them better to resist the climate change and the increasing loading with waves, etc. However, it's going to cause some significant impact to our ecosystems, our communities. We do have a lot of persons, just like in the Pacific region, who use it for cultural reasons. We have graves on the coastline and different activities such like that. So now it's trying to manage that as putting forward a solution coming from an engineering perspective. So we needed as well to delve into that, transdisciplinary space that Louise mentioned, which is critical for us now. So we no longer can sit and just talk about doing calculations. We have to go out in communities, chat with the persons in the communities, optimize, well, is this going to work for you? How are you all using this space? And then now building into that limited information on what's potentially going to happen in the region when we're looking at climate change and trying to find a solution. So it's really a challenging task. And what we try to do is ensure that our students understand the complexity. It is not a one size fits all. It's not we go and we build and we figure out the rest later. It's a very complex situation, and they have this obligation morally towards our region, towards our ocean, to ensure that we put the best solutions forward. And that is the challenge now as we educate our students and the general public. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. And you mentioned also undergraduate research projects. I noticed I noticed that, and I think many of you actually have that activity going, and I think that's really an important element in empowering students and motivating them and bringing them making them interested in research and understanding how research is produced and all of these elements. Could you tell us a little bit about how you do that, and what's the context you're doing it in?
No worries. Thanks a lot again. So part of our program at the university, students are required in the undergraduate stage to do a research project. It is a requirement because we see it as something that is preparing them for their work, whether or not they go into academia. So what we do is we include different types of projects. So we do have field-based projects. So we do have equipment they can go out in the field, in the coastal marine environment. We have lab-based projects, which is why I wanted to give them that opportunity. So we built this short film in 2018 so that they can use that. So they go in, they collect some data, they analyze the results, and we try to always link our project to some practical application. So that's why I use the demonstration there with the using sticks, but just some illustrative way to represent the vegetation and show, well, how it can impact on the coast. And sometimes when they see it, you know, they're researching it, they see it, they can translate that when they leave our organization into something they can do in their practice, even, as I said, if they don't go on into academia. So we see it as a valuable part of our undergraduate teaching, and and of course it provides a necessary foundation when they move on into graduate level work. Yes.
And resonates very well with what Sigrunn mentioned in her introduction, also about active learning and students as partners and collaborators, and it's of course something I recognize from our own university. We're building in more and more undergraduate research experiences, and there's a nice literature actually on these cure activities if you want to go to the literature and learn more about it.
Okay. Well, thanks.
So Louise, South Africa is also an ocean marine nation, and also in great need of increasing the capacity of higher education towards the marine sector, and of course engaging with SDG 14, as all of these speakers have been. And it's very tempting to follow up on the Samos project with you, of course, as I'm also involved in that, and it seems like a very good example of collaborating across the globe effectively, and we are luckily in the same time zone, which makes online collaboration much easier. Well, so I'm also looking very much forward to be involved in this, and I think that our role from the University of Bergen is more on this how we teach, which is I think is also an important element in actually in the SDG agenda, and that it's not about what we teach, but it's about how we teach and how we engage the students in classrooms, and the inclusiveness, the diversity, that we ensure that they succeed through their studies. But the SAMOS project is a fantastic collaboration also within South Africa, as you mentioned, with all these universities trying to build a common program, and I think that the students that get into it is supposed to be really the future leaders of the sector if we succeed. So how important do you think this? What legacy do you think that we can create with this project?
The legacy.
Well, it's
Yeah,
maybe a too ambitious question, I know, but I mean the potential of it maybe is better framing of it.
I think the potential is probably much beyond, much more than beyond South Africa, because in general, scientists, everyone, we struggle to collaborate meaningfully with each other. We struggle to get out of our silos. We talk about inter and transdisciplinarity, and we don't really always know how we go about it. We just know that's where we must get to go. And I guess for SAMOS, it kind of forces us all out of a lot of comfortable spaces where we're in our institutions and we do what we do and we teach what we teach, but it kind of forces us to have difficult conversations. It's finding compromise. What are the trade-offs? Finding middle ground. It's not always easy, as any colleagues would attest. But I think in the long, that obviously holds obvious benefits for South Africa and the South African marine environment, and all of that's quite well set out in the project. But I think it also gives us an idea of, it will give us an idea a lot about that, a lot of insight into how we collaborate in difficult spaces. That is not just important for our project, but also important for this bigger conversation that we're all trying to have. I think there's a lot to be learned about collaboration and what works, what doesn't work, in education, in whatever context you put it in. And I guess for me, that's the added legacy of it, beyond the fact that we are going to hopefully be training a lot more ocean professionals that are skilled at the same level. It's more equitable, it's more accessible. We're putting we're harnessing all the resources we have in one directed action. But I think for me as well, the spin-off is that, that collaboration and fostering that collaboration and understanding how that works also goes beyond just what South Africa gains from this project. So that's for me very exciting, because I work a lot with collaboration and thinking about how do we do it. So yeah. If that answers the question.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I really like to hear what you're saying, because it's the same experience that we have had in my institution. I mean, just suddenly when you start talking about education and you start thinking about, and actually just establishing that conversation among teachers, that it's not a privatized activity. It's something we do as a group. It's something that we should talk about, and it's something that we should also use our kind of research mindset to improve, scientifically, or at least try and understand what is it that provides the learning that we are seeking in students, and we haven't been good at that. I mean, that's really a major, I think, a big transition that is happening in higher education everywhere now. I mean, that we are becoming more aware of that maybe the traditional way we have been delivering teaching is not the best, and maybe there are other ways that are more effective, and sharing that and discussing that is important. So
yeah, and if I just may, in South Africa, we often get told that at university level that by private sector, that we are not teaching graduates that are fit for purpose for the working world, and that they don't have the skills that they need to have, into the workplace in. And I guess SAMOS is, the way that the curriculum has been designed, this cross-cutting nature, thinking about innovative teaching, thinking about group work and the flexibility and how to integrate things is also, in my view at least, takes us a little bit towards thinking, training people more to be able to work into a workplace and function as professionals. So yeah, I think we've been stuck in teaching. I mean, we've all been taught very much the same way, the mode hasn't changed. So it's really nice that it's opening up, that you can start having these conversations about different ways of doing things and exploring it. So that's also very exciting.
Thank you, Louise. I don't know, Isabel, if you have any questions, maybe.
Well, thank you so much, and not immediate questions. And I know that Maddie already had to leave us, and I was checking if there's any questions there. But I mean, you were going already a bit in the direction of like, what role does higher education play in this? And I mean, I'm speaking from the perspective of the International Association of Universities, so we're trying to bridge that gap as well, like ISC is doing between the science policy or higher education policy, and really say like, what does this mean for us, and what does it mean for the graduates and for the role also of the institutions. So I'm just wondering, yeah, if that's something that one of the speakers previously would like to comment on, or we're very well in time. So if there's any additional questions, I'm happy to ask them. But I wonder if Anesh or Liang, if you want to comment also on this role that Louise and Deborah with Oyvind have started discussing in the past couple of minutes. Yeah, Liang, I see you're nodding.
Yeah. You know, my English is not very good.
No,
Yeah, sorry about that. I think in the coming years, we should not only for the UNOC meeting, maybe we can talk regularly, like our meeting with the China and Norway Ocean University. Maybe we can talk regularly, and on Owen and Professor Wang talk very often. Maybe several times per season. Then we can find. I think for me, I think renewable energy is a good choice for the climate change. And I talk a lot with Professor Andrew McMahon from the University of Tasmania. He was the director of the Institute of Marine and Antarctic Studies. And he think renewable energy and other like new style nuclear power should be much better than the old style energy. If every country used renewable energy, then the carbon emission will decrease a lot. And based on the natural-based carbon sink, we might have a best choice for the best solution for the climate change. And actually, though renewable energy is still developing, but like he told me, in Australia, they use a lot about the solar energy, and their population is small, but now they already carbon negative emission. I think some other countries, especially in the tropical area, they can do similar work, like use more solar energy, and also some islands use wave energy, renewable energy. I think if all of the country use renewable energy, I think in the after several years, maybe 1 decade or 2 decades, we might have a better condition face the climate change. Yeah, thank you. And we can talk more.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, it's absolutely important topics that you're bringing up. I mean, we know the SDGs are incredibly interconnected, so we need to look also not just at, I think climate came quite up a bit, but also the energy component in it. And I mean, I had the privilege of attending a couple of the governmental also discussions and listening to what government representatives were saying earlier this week at UNOC. And I think the need to find national commitments that can also be upheld from the government perspective is really important, next to the collaboration between the higher education institutions, like in this group that we have. I was just wondering, and also because I know that the International Science Council had this expert group, and that we have Anesh here, who is part of that group, and if you wanted to say a couple of words about this expert group ahead of UNOC, and about the recommendations that ISC group of scientists and also higher education representative has been putting together. Maybe that could be a nice complement to our discussion at this point.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to remember. So we were a group of experts from the International Science Council represented here at UNOC. And basically, what we want to say is that it's the science that informs the decision-making process. And I guess what is needed is the more the science policy dialogue, the more it's a two-way street where the scientists need also to learn something about diplomacy, and diplomats probably need to learn a bit about the science to be able to understand each other and have the science to policy interface not an abrupt transition, but rather a smooth transition. So this requires work from both ends, both from the scientist perspective and the diplomatic perspective. I mean, that's one of the ways in which science diplomacy is scheduled to work. And this is what we're trying to do, like I said in the beginning, with our students. They're doing the science, but we're also teaching them diplomacy and how to negotiate at the higher level. And our students have been going, for example, to the UN headquarters in New York to be able to get this sort of training. So this is something really spectacular about what we're doing, and I hope that we can build up on this going forward. The climate change program that I was talking about, that's only one of the programs we're trying to develop, but there are a few other programs that I didn't mention, and those are, for example, the disaster risk financing program. We may be receiving a lot of climate funds or climate finance, but how is that being spent? What are the mechanisms that are in play in the region, and what is the best possible way to administer it? So this is something that we're also trying to put into our curriculum. And thank you to Deborah for talking about these projects for undergrad students. I think this is a very good point that we can put into a program. One of the aspects that we need to put into a program. I think it's very much needed, the hands-on experience. We have students from 4 Pacific Island countries working together on projects that are affecting their own countries. So this is something that would be really an ideal place to do that, the hands-on experience part of it. So yeah. Thank you, Isabel, for sharing that.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Anesh. I think you made it also nice connection to science diplomacy role of research and educational institution and the way of like educating. So we have the macro level and like sort of the micro level at the institution, which is really nice. I believe that maybe it's a good, if I don't see any other immediate question or concern, maybe it's a very good occasion now to give the floor to the Secretary General of the IU, to Hillage van 't Land, for her comments and thoughts and some announcements that we also wanted to make at the end of this conversation. So thank you to the speakers at this stage, and thank you, Hillage, and thank you, Oyvind, also for co-moderating. And I would like to give it already to Hillage now and come in here with some concluding words. Not yet the closing, but some words. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, thank you to all the speakers. Matti has left, but nevertheless, we can convey thanks to her as well. It was wonderful to listen to all of you, including to the opening remarks by Sigrunn Eliassen, who also had to leave. But what I heard and take away from this is a very important key point that all of you actually made, starting with Sigrunn and ending with the presentation on Ocean X. It is this importance of education. And what is a problem today is that education is not valorized in the academic trajectories. And so many people shy away from high quality education, yet that is what we need for the future. It's not the case in every country, I would say, or every continent, but education has kind of been pushed aside to give way for more space for research, and research that then goes into peer-reviewed journals and lands on a shelf, rather than this very important work that you also mentioned, this community engagement, the relationship to what matters and what really resonates and will make a difference. So that's what Sigrunn said. We need to have cooperative learning, and everybody picked up on that in different forms and shape, and make more impact when it comes to the kind of teaching that we do. Really looking at how teaching can become more evidence-based, and you provided for beautiful examples, and how quality actually is to be defined in all the different contexts that you embody on the screen. Because something else very important that was said in a few words by Mati Rodriguez is we cannot protect what we do not know. So we indeed need to transform the way in which we educate. But can we do that? Because how, as Louise, you said it, forces to get out of our comfort zone are there, but they are not easy, even if they're so important. Because how do we get out of that comfort zone if we're not valorized when we actually do that? So it's kind of a catch-22. We know as educators at heart that we now have to move away from what Oyvind also tagged as more this traditional way in which we are used to teach, and Louise, you repeated that as well, and Deborah in your own ways, and Liang and Anish as well. We need to find this sweet spot into this transitioning in higher education towards something that will allow for the professors to teach in different ways, to get out of the comfort zones and not feel threatened when we have to give away of what we were used to be taught ourselves and invent new things. So that's where I very much liked this point made by many of you about this need for better collaboration on teaching and learning practices. How can we better work on that? And the University of Bergen has had several ateliers around it, how to bring together the different teaching and learning expertises and then innovate together, find new ways to address the issues that we need to issue. Because we also have been talking for 30 years about the importance of inter and transdisciplinary approaches to what we do. Do we implement it? We don't. We stick to our disciplinary approaches. We stick to our department boundaries. We have a hard time moving out of it because it takes time, because it takes a different kind of engagement, because. So it's interesting because you provide some of these examples of how to move to a next level and to look again at what we teach and how we teach it for better ownership by those who benefit from that teaching, including the teaching staff, because we learn much more by doing it together. So you mentioned a lot about the many challenges. And so from the University of the West Indies, Deborah, you said the challenges come with challenges to tourism, the coastal lines, the oil and gas, the culture, the historical backgrounds, the hurricanes. It was so much that if you start with that with students, they drown themselves. So you also all said, Oyvind, you picked up on that as well, this need to look at these multiple challenges that we have and at the multi-dimensional aspects from the more tech engineering sides of things to the very social dimensions of the teaching and the elements that we have to teach in order to also reinstill hope and to find ways to co-create courses that will get us out of this dramatic approach to what the world looks like, and in particular when it comes to the oceans, which are so important to move us into the future, and get to the point where we can have the social impact that we need to get us to the next point. So education it is, and you made that case very strongly, and education at all the different levels within the system, but also with society, and that you made that point very clearly. And when I say with, it is not only to preach to the communities, but to work with the communities in order to transform the way in which we teach. And you've made that case in very beautiful ways as well. And that for the audience and those who will listen to the webinar will be a unique opportunity to really pick up on the different presentations you made and learn from these initiatives that you've shared. So we have to help everyone understand the multifaceted complexity that we face, doubling up here, and help understand how to respond to this, but together. Because there is this African saying, you can, if you want to walk fast, you walk alone. If you want to go far, you walk together. And that's definitely the point that you've made as well. And so maybe out of this webinar, the connections between you as researchers will be a very nice opportunity as well. Another point that I found very interesting is also beyond how to attract more students. I don't remember exactly who said so, that these classes are emptying despite the fact that there is such an urgent need for more experts. Maybe it was you, Deborah, or it was Sigrunn as well at the beginning. But anyway, we know that in the different universities, ocean sciences is not attracting the masses. But how can we make this, the different facets of what makes for marine and ocean sciences more attractive to the young generations? And not an easy response there, but what you shared and what you showed when it comes to linking up research and teaching from an early age on, even in first year of undergrad studies, will make a difference. Because already, if from the beginning we bring students in from year one to understand why they study and what it means to study and what it can lead them to, that's where we can go to many next steps and help them. And then co-construct also bridges between higher education and basic to secondary education, because that's essential as well, because that's where we will find the passions for the future. So interesting that what you mentioned, Oyvind, the different levels of trainings and learnings and the work that's being championed by all of your universities and the University of Bergen as well. An example that I know a little bit more, but very good to hear those different experiences and to bring those elements together. So all in all, fascinating conversation. Thank you very much for your great inputs. Let's work on that transition in higher education together. Ocean science is something that can be connected to everything. It can be connected to literature. Many books talk about the sciences and the oceans and the whatever. It can be linked to sociology, it can be linked to mathematics, it can be linked to history, the history of the development of our societies around how we live the oceans and where we want to go, etc. So let's make sure that what we've talked about for so many years can be orchestrated and make sure that we educate the students that will be fit for purpose and fit for the purpose of work, but meaningful work. Louisa, I heard you clearly there as well. We have to help them find these bridges in where they can go. So beautiful. And that's where we would like to make two announcements, but I see Isabel getting nervous. We have 2 minutes. No, I'm joking. But it's important maybe to highlight opportunities for people to learn about the voluntary commitment to a data set, where we would like to invite the audience and much more broadly speaking, universities to really share actionable initiatives that they undertake when it comes to ocean science, etc. So ocean commitments, and that is what Isabel will share in the chat as well. So voluntary ocean commitment. Please do share initiatives, and we would love to then also have a small publication, if possible, on best practices for the SDGs and in particular SDG 14. And then a second announcement would be around UNESCO's call to action for ocean literacy, which is actually what you've been talking about in much detail. And there as well, please have a look at what Isabel will share in the chat. Then finally, what I also would like to highlight here is two different things. We maintain as an IAU the World Higher Education database called the WED, and you can find the link as well in the chat, where we list where we present the work that you do. So we present the systems and we present the institutions, and you can find in the World Higher Education database many examples of marine sciences, what is being studied, what are the kinds of courses, and how to connect to these. So please use the WED as you see fit. Get back to us. There are more than 40,000 degrees at all levels all around the world when it comes to studies that are related to ocean science and marine sciences. And then another important entry point into connecting our actions is the Higher Education for Sustainable Development global portal that is maintained by Isabel and fed by all the universities, where we also have specific lists of actions and actionable and scalable initiatives on, in particular, SDG 14, and how we can also connect the different SDGs in order to make sense of what is being done in universities and impact marine sciences, thus also ensuring that we don't silo out SDGs, but interdisciplinarity comes in and connecting the different SDGs as well. So I hope I've not been too long, but I've got passionate about all the work that you're doing and so many opportunities for future collaboration. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Hillage, and thanks to all the speakers. I think we have to end this here, but we'll follow up with the materials and the slides. And I think I'll give the floor back to Euwen to close the session. But then we have started and we end with the University of Bergen. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you. I will not keep you, but I think this has been a very interesting discussion from so many different places with a shared common interest in the ocean and in teaching. So let's keep contact, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Be in touch.
everyone. Nice to meet you
Be in
all.
touch.
Thank
See
you.
you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.